Hello, welcome to another video. In this video, we are going to be talking about races in my fantasy universe. I have been gone for a while, and during this time, I've decided to make some big changes to my content. If you appreciate it, you can like, subscribe, and maybe even join my Discord server, which I would greatly appreciate. However, I don't want to waste too much time talking. Thus, I will begin the video now. This is the homeland of a race known as the Ancient Kedivite. The Ancient Kedivite are a race of tall, dark, and slim people. Their color is usually of a dark brown or dark red. These people are a human type race and are the first I will be talking about. They predominantly live in desert or flat terrain. Significant populations can include southwestern Maldura, which is seen on the map, and Al Gamor in Afri. Now, these people have dark skin that allows them to live in the deserted terrain. What these people are most known for is their high magical knowledge. This allows for them to use and learn magic much quicker than the other races. And they don't just have the ability to learn and perform certain magic types or spells faster. They have a general boost in knowledge when it comes to all magic. Thus, the ancient Kedavites make for powerful and useful wizards and have been used by many different places throughout history as wizards, philosophers, and other people, as they were generally seen as a sophisticated peoples, as a race. These people's origins come from the Lord Deputy of the Sun and the Keeper of the Six Books, Atiketan. He created them in around 36,000 of the first era with his 6 sons. These sons would soon move into southern Maldura and begin to spread their, how do I say it, children. Thus, eventually, by around 30,000 of the first era, these ancient Kedavites made up a significant population of southwestern Maldura. They would reach onto the other continents through various ways. And that is the ancient Kedivite. The Sapiens are a race of average-sized pale people. Well, I say pale, but they can sometimes, in rare circumstances, be other colors. These people are well known for their ability to adapt to situations. Their mind has the ability to adapt to almost any situation, and so does their body. This can adapt to social, political, or climate changes as well. So these people's history originates to a people known as the Sabic people. They were cursed and sent into the eastern caves of Vanza. However, eventually, I believe a couple hundred years later, they would come into contact with the Lordess of Water and Fertility, Imina. Imina would eventually lift the curse from them, as long as they promised to worship her. Thus, she granted them the knowledge of how to farm. And thus, as you can see on this map, these are certain coastal civilizations that are predominated by the Sapiens, as they migrated into these areas and formed large river farming communities to make a significant population. They are on other continents, but they predominate in these areas. And that is the Sapien. Oh, wait. I forgot to tell you that that happened in 28,000 of the first era. Now we're done with the Sapiens. Next up are the Narks. The Narks are a race of blue people that live in the deep forests of a land known as Sagres, which is the blue that you can see on the map. They are known for their very good eyesight, being able to see in the dark, and their incredible arm strength, making them very valuable archers. These Narks typically live in deep forests and can sometimes be seen in the timberlands in Ahri. The Narks come from a man named Luistigo, who was a bastard child, which means illegitimate child, of someone known as Vermain, the lord of animals and the hunt. He, somewhere around 40,000 BC, not BC, I mean of the first era. Anyway, so around 40,000 of the first era, he moved into Sagres and began to convert people to his looks. He had the blue skin like Narcs do, and this is said to have come from the blood of someone known as Ephesus, who is a very important god in my universe of the early First Era. But moving on, from him is where these Narcs get their traits from, mainly of their eyesight and generally wanting to live and hunt animals. And that is it for the Narcs. Next up are a race known as the Dwarki. They are short people that can be any human race. There are very rare circumstances in which the Dwarki can actually be another race other than the human, like a Vermani or even an Elven. So, one thing about the Dwarki is that they are oftentimes known as dwarves. However, they are not dwarves, they are their own entity. This is because dwarves are just short people, but the Dwarki have something unique about them. And that is a unique blessing from the Lord of all things knowledge, Madurga, who you will see again in this video. Now he went over to what is known as Mata's Island in around 15,000 of the fourth era, I believe. No, I mean first era. 15,000 of the first era after he left the Chiton. There, the people of the islands who were dwarves agreed to host him there and basically read his books and converted to his religion. Thus, he set himself up in Mata's Island, and this is where the Dwarki come from, as he would bless them with the knowledge of conjuration, the summoning of foreign creatures. And I'll talk about magic in a future video, so I can specify on these things, and necromancing. The Dwarki, give me a second here. The Dwarki predominantly live on Mata's Island. However, they can be found on other places. Though there are very few of them that live outside of the island, most of them, I mean, anyway. So, they have been spotted, the Dwarki have been spotted on other continents such as Dunnaland and Ahri. But they actually are a very small minority within any of these locations. And stories only can go down to individuals instead of entire groups. Next up, we begin our first elven race, starting with the Apollers. Now, the Apollers are a race of red-skinned elves, and they are known as Red Elves. Hold up, give me a second. So the Red Elves originate not from Nerun, but they come from a god, the Lord of Destruction, known as Apollyon. The Apollers are known as one of the more recent races, only being created in around 8,000 and only actually starting to come onto Ahri by around 6 to 5,000. I think 6,000, yeah. Now, the Apollers were led by a prophet of Apollyon, and he would promise them the entirety of the southeast of Dunnerland, which you could see on this map. However, under the first Koran Empire, they were only able to conquer a part of the Promised Land. Thus, throughout the next centuries, millennium actually, the many kingdoms and empires from Koru, the red area, and which also involves territories nearby, would frequently attempt to conquer westwards in order to finally establish their hold over the Promised Land, never being able to succeed long term. While I'm here, I'm going to be talking about the Shurdans as well, as the two races are very similar. For example, they both are very good in destruction magic, but particularly fire magic. However, what separates the Apollers and the Shurdans is one, the Shurdans are much larger than the Apollers, and they are actually half elf, half human. So, the Shurdans are a mixed race, the first one we'll be talking about. Now, another interesting thing is that the Shurdans are very, very aggressive people. It's very hard to actually make friends with them, and they are very hostile towards outsiders, almost predatorial in many cases, while the Apollers are still aggressive in many ways, but are more tame than the Shurdans. They both come from Apollyon and both have very similar origins, and are both very related races. Next up, we have the first race of man created, known as the Etmor. The Etmor come from Akudom, the Lordess of Life and Creation, who created them all the way back in 45,000 of the First Era. So the Etmors are a race of pale to yellow-skinned elves, and are also known as Yellow Elves in many cases. They are particularly known for their alteration and healing magic, and are known to generally be less hostile towards foreigners, aka more friendly. And the Etmor are essentially put a much more friendly and more tameable people than, let's say, a Shurdans, meaning that they are more open to foreigners and, that stuff. So, so as I said, they were the first race, and in fact, the first people that that could fit this description of what a man is, with emotional capacity and the ability to walk, talk, all of that stuff. They also created the first bow. Fun fact that not the first bow ever, but the first bow that was created by a person was created by the first people. Now they didn't live on not Ari, but Dunnerland until 40,000, 5,000 years after. Now, initially, they would inhabit all of Dunnerland, the entire continent. However, they were sparsely populated, and much of Dunnerland soon would become taken by different races and differing peoples. However, they were able to make up a substantial population of the southeast of the continent. They would continue to dominate the area until the Gorazir, who we'll talk about next, the Paulus and the Shurdans would come in and take away much of that land from them. Despite this, they would still control much of their lands westwards, having key relations with the Narkish Sagricians. And that'll be it for the Etmors. Next up, we have the Gorzia, a race of gray-colored elves, and who are known as Gray Elves. The Gray Elves were created by the Lord of the Wind, Asmirid, back in 31,000 of the First Era. The Gorzia predominantly live in mountainous terrain, and as you can see on these maps, the Gorzia actually have two main locations where they come from. The first is in the southeast of Dunnaland, where they took over from the Etmors. And the second one would be in the southwest of the lands of Rockland, or Hilland, I mean. These two areas would be dominated by gray elves. The Grey Elves are particularly known for their mystic magic, which is an alteration of a oneself, like the body and the mind. And and they were also quite known for their excellent swordsmanship, which they developed later on. They would live as mountainous people in these two areas, but they would also find themselves living in other areas as well, such as some people in Marthia, which you'll see later on. Next up are the Wolfas. The Wolfas are a race, give me a second here, of wolf people, basically. They are the first of the Vermani people that we will be talking about, which are animal races. They are known as hunters of the hills, as wolfers sprawl across almost each continent on large hilly terrain hunting in the wild. They are very versatile people with stats good in general, in both their speed and their strength and their size and everything. They were one of the most important races created by the Lord of Animals and the Hunt, Vermain. And now the Wolfers would come from Morthia, which is where the first Wolfers were at. The Wolfers, however, would become popular amongst many different areas, including a lot of the north of Ahri in general. Overall, they would make up a huge proportion of Ahri's in the world in general's population, being by far one of the most populated races of them all. The Medvay are a race of bear people. They are known to live in forests. Now, what's interesting about the Medvay is that they have a number of subspecies. While the Medvay proper, the main ones, are known for their aggressive nature, there are other types of Medvay, such as a panda subspecies, which are much more relaxed. Now then, the Medvay are mostly known for their huge stature and their large amount of strength. They are seen as beasts, as like beast people, both figuratively and literally, and they are very good hunters as well. They, almost like a lot of other races, originate from the Lord of Animals in the Hunt, Vermain. Next up are the Targo. The Targo are tiger people that predominantly live in savanna and jungle terrain. They, just like all the other many of the other Vermani races, were created by Vermain. in 32,000 of the first era. They are known as a fast, strong, powerful race of tiger people, known especially for their silent but deadly sneak abilities. They they originally lived in eastern Maldura, well, southeastern Maldura, but spread over much of Maldura. Because the Targol are one of the main race populations in Maldura, they too also turn out to be one of the largest race groups in Nerun in general. Next up are the Huntha. The Huntha are panther people that live in jungle and flat terrain. They are known for, like the tiger people, the Targals, are known for their quick and deadly nature, but with their emphasis much more focused on the quietness of their abilities. They are excellent hunters in the wild, with an amazing sense of smell that even bests a wolfer. They were created by accident by a person named Derenine, or Derenine. Derenine, okay. Derenine, who was a prince of Vermain by accident. They were created by around 31,000 of the first era, and they would predominantly populate the Middle Eastern parts of Maldura before spreading around. Like the Targal, they turned out to make a huge proportion of the population of Maldura, thus becoming one of the largest race groups in general. The Jukar are next. They are a race of wingless dragon people that predominantly live in the swamps and mountains. The Jukar are a ferocious race of people and are very territorial. Now, what makes them especially interesting is the fact that they have different subspecies that are representative of differing elements. Now, what does this mean? That means that they have different subspecies for things such as fire, ice, water, and other elements like that. They are also known for being a very adaptive race. So in reality, the Jukar can live just about anywhere. For example, there are quite a bit of Jukars that live in desert areas. And these Jukars would develop a lot differently than, let's say, ones that live in the swamps. Almost, and in some cases, to a point in which they could be considered a subspecies of the Jukars. This makes the Jukars an incredibly diverse race of differing versions of the Jukar. Almost forgot to talk about where the Jukar come from. They originate from Madarka, the Lord of all things knowledge. He looked at a dragon and created a replica of a humanoid version of a dragon. He, fun fact, originally wanted to place wings on them, but he wasn't able to, and thus he just simply put them without wings. Next up are the Pekaras. The Pekaras are a race of sheep people. They come from the Shura over in this map, as you can see. They predominantly live in flatter types of terrain, like grasslands. Now, the Pekura are known for their extreme ability to survive harsh conditions. Thus, throughout history, Because they were also easily controlled in many ways, the Pekora were often used as slaves for foreign powers and amongst themselves. The Pekora were created as an experiment by one of Vermaine's worshippers in 31,000 of the first era. Now, despite being known as Now, despite all of this, there is actually a huge subspecies of pecora that are almost a race of their own, and these are the pecoro. These pecoro are similar, but instead they have dark wool, while the pecoras have white. These pecoro are much larger than the regular pecoras, and they are known for their aggressiveness. In fact, it's said that some people would call these pecoras war pecoras because of their nature and willingness to fight. The Arbol are next, and they are a race of deer hunter people. The Arbol, though looking and in some ways acting like deer, are actually not herbivores, and they are well known for hunting animals in the wilderness. They predominantly live in forested areas, such as in the timberlands, which is pictured here. Now, the Arbol and Narks that I mentioned earlier are actually quite similar to one another. They both have very good eyesight. They both are known as excellent hunters, and both predominantly live in forested terrain. The only major difference is that the Arbol are known for their speed, while the Narks are known for their strength, I'd say. These Arbols were, guess what? Created by Vermain. And the next race we'll be talking about, the second final Vermani race, were also created by Vermain. Vermain created most of the Vermani races. Here we have the Velsi, the only race that doesn't have its own homeland, let's say. The Velsi are a race of fox people. They are known for their sneaky nature and have managed to develop a bad reputation for stealing. This led to them being killed numerous times throughout history in various massacres and genocides, thus forcing them to move across places. However, do note that Velsies have developed significant populations in all continents and have managed to build up cities for themselves and even civilizations. There are also many important Velsi leaders throughout history, like Elagablin, the emperor of the Nakarthan Empire, was a Velsi. So don't, it's not like they were, how do I say it? Like victims all the time. So the Velsi were created by you know who already. It's Vermain. He created them. Just like all the other races. Next up are the serpents. The serpents are a race of snake people. They are venomous like their animal counterparts and are known for their stealth and strength. They predominantly live in forested terrain, but they can live in other areas. They are also well known for living in swamps as well. And on the map, you can actually see that area is heavy swamp territory. And I don't even think I need to tell you who created them. It was Vermain. But anyway, so one more fact about them is that many serpents are green colored. However, the color can actually depend on a variety of things. Serpents are unique in this regard because serpents can actually be blue, they can be purple, they can be any color depending on circumstances. So I just thought I would say that. And here we are, the final race of Nerun, of man, the Zeph. The Zeph. The Zeph are actually three main types of race put into one. There are the blue, the green, and the brown. These three originate from different areas, but still have a same origin. Now, the Zeph are a mix of human and Romani, the only race to be a mix of the two. Now, what makes these people unique is several factors. Number one, they are they can vary in terms of how much fur they have. Some can have very little, if not even none at all, while others can be as furry as any Vermani. The Zeph are known for their very aggressive and nomadic lifestyle, and throughout history, they have often just simply wanted to live in plains or forests or mountains or wherever else they lived, free from control. They are very much a race that is self sufficient and which often just simply wishes to remain independent. So, they actually have the most unique origin out of them all. Were not created directly from a god, but instead were a series of people and other deities and, that stuff that descended from a Demesis from the 100,000s of the first era. They are direct descendants of this god. Now, this Demesis was one of the five Demesises that were first created in the 100s of the first era, meaning that these people are directly descended from one of the oldest gods of Nerun. However, they only really became recognizable as a race, like being able to talk, being able to feel emotions, being able what other things makes you people man in general. And they only started to develop this in 27,000. However, their history goes back way before this, with some that look like the Zeph dating back all the way to the 100,000s of the first era. Whew, that's it. Well, I don't know much else that I can say now. This video has been in the work for, I believe, a week now. Most of it was just me wanting to figure out how I wanted to do these videos. This video was a little rushed as I did just want to get something out there as it had been, I think, a month now since I've last uploaded. And I was also very excited about all of the new things that I got. However, do note that my editing and everything will likely improve and my things will change in the future. I plan to cover other subjects, particularly magic and politics, like with empires and stuff. But, that's really it. So I'd like to take this time to thank each and every one of you who spends a small part of their day to watch my videos. If you liked these videos, you already know what to do. I won't repeat it again. What I will repeat though is if you want to talk with me and go onto my Discord server, you can go ahead and do that, as there are certain benefits to doing so. However, that'll be it. I hope each and every one of you has a good day or night, and I'll see you all another time.